co-founder, along with my brother Jason here, of a company called ThoughtForma. And this clicker has a mind of its own. We're going to talk to you today about our journey into no-code, what we're currently focusing on, and a little bit of a glimpse into the future of where we're going to take our platform and where we see the future of no-code going as well.
And you'll see in the title that we're talking about being towards lifecycle development. If you are a developer, you'll probably have heard of the term development lifecycle. It's sort of part of our lives, and of course, it describes the journey of starting from an idea and actually delivering a product. And so what we're doing is we're thinking about turning that all on its head, rather than being a very long process of actually getting something live. And we talk about being live first, get something live as quickly as possible, probably instantly, and then iterating while it's live. And so we talk about that in terms of being live cycle development. And so you'll see as we go through our story here how everything is sort of leading towards allowing people to have the tools to do that.
So a little bit of background. We're pretty long in the tooth. You can see between us 50 years in the tech space, and it's going forward. I've been mainly concentrating on software delivery and software development, whereas Jason majors more on the data management and data governance side. So our skill set dovetails quite nicely. But throughout our careers, we've both experienced the struggle, how difficult it is to build good quality, robust software. And we've shared this, this mindset that there must be a better way. There must be a better way for us to build software and also to make it much more democratized for people. And this clicker is literally doing its own thing. And yeah, much more democratized for people. You want to take that? And so that we can, help people bring their ideas to life in the form of digital applications. Yeah, I'll just use this, I think. So really, my kind of aha moment came at the Web Summit conference in 2017 when I was watching a keynote delivered by Al Gore here, who was talking about how the technologists are going to solve the problem of climate crisis. And it was a really rip-roaring speech that he did, to the point that it had a really profound effect on me. I remember thinking, I've got the skills to potentially help here, even though I probably won't come up with the ideas that are going to solve the climate crisis or other world problems. Maybe I can help people that might have these ideas, but maybe not have the technical skills to bring them into the world and not remain locked in their heads. So this was a really profound moment for me. I remember getting really fired up about it, and when I came back from that conference, I was rather excitedly pitching my idea to Jason, and thankfully, he didn't think it was too insane, and we decided to form ThoughtForma together. So I'll let him kind of give his kind of take on those times and the beginnings and the genesis of our journey.
And so as Gareth was having those kind of visions, I was at a point in my career when I was helping large organizations and governments around the world get more value from their data, really sort of helping them understand what kind of data that they had, and then how they could actually use that data to better effect. And that's quite a difficult thing to do for large organizations and governments in particular, national governments. And what I was really trying to do was get to a point where our consultancy teams had the tools available to be able to go into any kind of organization and describe that organization almost in terms of a data twin. So, anything to do with that organization could be described in data. And so I formed that kind of tool, and that really started as the genesis of ThoughtForma, because what we then realized was if you could do something dynamically with data, that data could be used to describe anything and any part of an application. So not just the data, but also logic and the actual layout of an application as well. And so that's why I didn't think Gareth was quite so crazy, because I could start to see where we might take some of the things we were working on already.
Thank goodness. Yeah, and so like every startup story, it's been very up and down, lots of twists and turns. Myself and Jason have had to bootstrap our way through. Sometimes we, thought we were going to have to stop the whole thing because we ran out of money. But we had a very pivotal moment where we were introduced to a very interesting venture studio called Nobody Studios. And from the very first meeting with their CEO, where he pitched this audacious idea of them building and creating 100 compelling companies in 5 years, well, Jason and I were completely subscribed. That's the kind of craziness that we like. And so, yeah, we deepened our relationship with them. We got to know the founders and the leadership team, and we started working together. And it was very quick to realize that this was a match made in heaven. Like, they were looking to build companies from the ground up. We were looking for real-world scenarios to build out using our platform. And so we just got together, and very quickly we got to the point where it's like, actually, we need to deepen this relationship. And so about just over a year ago, we actually decided to be acquired by Nobody Studios, and we became one of their portfolio companies, and also what's referred to as a building block company to help them build the technology for their other portfolio companies. And the first one of those that we built out in ThoughtForma is for a company called Ovations, which is a two-sided marketplace to help planners of virtual events find speaker talent on demand to breathe life into their events at the drop of a hat, basically. And this was the perfect kind of proving ground for us, because it was sophisticated enough for it to stretch our platform and to give us the opportunity to kind of extend the capabilities of ThoughtForma to be able to service that kind of platform. And we managed to achieve that with 0 lines of code as well.
I'll just qualify that to say there's obviously a lot of code, but what we talk about 0 lines of code, there is not a single line of code that's dedicated to that one application. So everything is very generic, and the next application can come along and use the same kind of building blocks that we did there, and again, use no lines of code to do it. But there's actually quite a lot of code underneath all of this, but our users never see any of it. And so obviously with Ovations, that's really a two-sided marketplace. And what we mean by that is it's really about one group of people trying to sell to another group of people. And of course, there's a lot of those that we all recognize, Uber, Airbnb. We often describe Ovations as being almost the Airbnb, but for virtual events. And clearly there's a number of common things that are related to two-sided marketplaces. You need somewhere to list the thing that you're trying to sell. You need some way for people to search, to be able to buy. You need often quite complex payment routes. So in Ovations, for example, our payments end up going in a number of different directions depending on the relationship between the person buying and the person actually offering the services. And so we need a way of being able to configure that, all again with no code. You have reviews, you have ratings, the things that happen after something has been sold and bought. And then often there's some quite sophisticated communications. And so one of the things we've realized is that having done this once, that's a useful exercise, that's a useful template for anybody else that's trying to do a similar thing. And so marketplaces is becoming one of our specialities. And then behind the scenes, there's what we call the tricky bits. But we call them tricky because this is the stuff we don't want anybody ever to have to worry about or to see. And so we've spent a lot of years, in fact, most of the time that Gareth and I have been working together has been spent on the back end, making sure that we can support any number of people trying to build an application. So they become tenants on our platform. So that's the multi-tenancy aspect. That the thing will scale. We want to get rid of that concept that no code doesn't scale. We want to be able to support the unicorns, and so we've built it on absolute best-of-breed cloud service providers, well, AWS, let's mention them, and it's built so that it will scale. I talked earlier about being able to define data in a dynamic way, and we've built some very interesting ways of allowing people to be able to describe data however they like, and then have really good data management capabilities wrapped around it, whatever their data happens to be. And so our answer to that is everything we've architected is fully serverless. It's 100% serverless. We weren't always that way, but as our services started to scale up and things started to get very expensive, we took out the last component, which actually was a data indexing component that wasn't serverless and was costing us a lot of money. And so the serverless route has really started to pay off for us. And so where are we? Well, our growth story, we describe where we are really in terms of what we call our growth story. And so you've just heard us describe how we internally, so Gareth and I, built an application using our platform, and that was Ovations. And as Gareth explained, that really helped us sort of elevate the capabilities of the platform to be able to support the things that Ovations needed. And then to generalize those so that other marketplace apps, or indeed any other apps, might be able to use those capabilities. But being completely honest, one of the things we've done is we feel that the capability of the platform has taken leaps forward, but usability has taken some steps back. And when we've actually now tried in our alpha release with a small group of people to sort of say, now you try and build something. And they're saying, not so easy. We're not finding it as easy as you do because you know the platform and as you want your eventual user base to be able to do. So this is where we are now. We've come to this very event to start saying, so how would people want to be able to develop? What would they expect it to look like? We've got some ideas, particularly around using AI and AI prompts, and really effectively sort of leapfrogging over the usual sort of visual interfaces to something much more conversational. So we'd love to have chats with people. Come by our booth, which is B1, and tell us what you think and what your experiences are. But we've effectively sort of taken this step now of shelving the kind of interface that we had, really to replace it with something, with whatever it is that people tell us is the best way to present our product. And then we will iterate it and present it back to the market, hopefully as something that will delight everybody.
And I just want to give you a little glimpse of kind of where we're heading in terms of how we see the progression of app building and what we're currently working on at the moment. And that is that we see everything going much more conversationally, obviously with like ChatGPT and the AI hype train that's going on at the moment. We see the process of building applications becoming much, much more conversational. Sure. And I just want to walk you through how we think that's going to look. So it should be as simple as typing in a prompt in the same way that you would ask a question to ChatGPT, right? So come up with an idea, type it in, and just hit the ship it button, and get the platform to actually generate the first version, like the MVP version of your application, which, depending on the complexity of that application, you might even be able to launch it at that particular point, start getting early feedback, and iterate from that point. But also, you might also want to make improvements before you launch it out into the world. So again, we're thinking that this is going to be much more based around natural conversation. So from that first version, maybe you just want to change the color scheme. And you should be able to do that just by typing in, change the color scheme to match my branding guidelines, for example. Hit go, and then it gets regenerated with that new color scheme. Now, that's a very simple example, but we see this going much more sophisticated in terms of full functionality being built out just from prompts. So let's say that your particular application needed payment provision.
Just done it.
That's very kind of it.
Very intelligent.
Super intelligent, no code, right? So you should just be able to type the prompt, add payment functionality, maybe using Stripe or one other of the payment gateways, hit go, and it produces that for you and integrates it into your application. And this is essentially the way that we think the building of no-code applications is heading. It's something that we're currently experimenting with. We've got an early sort of demo version of this, which we'd love to show you at our booth B1, where we're generating kind of landing pages, and you can iterate. You can start to iterate using natural language prompts. But that's just the start. So this is where we want it to go in the very near-term future. And talking of the future...
Yeah, so quite a lot of no-code tools are really sort of focused on allowing people to build and launch. And obviously we've just described a similar scenario, but where we get quite excited is about taking it beyond that. And this comes back to this concept of life cycle development, that the point that you launch is really the start, and it's actually what happens beyond that. And that's certainly true of the large organizations I've been working in, where they'll often employ armies of data scientists to work out, what is the most optimal way for people to use their products, then work with their developers to actually iterate that and get that back out into the market. Expensive, it's the kind of thing that takes time. Where we're going with this is that we want the intelligence in our platform to be able to help people to do that really automatically. And so, one of the things that we can do with machine learning is get a much more deep and semantic understanding of an application. So rather than the platform just understanding it as being sort of components, here's a button, here's a page, it's now starting to look at that more holistically and saying, I understand what this page is, and I understand what these pages collectively are doing. I deeply understand your application. Tell me a bit more about what you're trying to do with this application. Describe in business terms what you're trying to do. Better user acquisition, better retention, better conversions. And so then what it can do is actually start looking at the configuration of the site, looking at how users are using it in the real world, and then actually suggesting ways of improving the application, generating variants of that application on your behalf for you to pick, put those live side by side. So it's almost like A/B testing but on steroids, where you can have many, many versions of a site, going out to different partition versions of your user base. And we're monitoring that, or rather the platform is monitoring that on your behalf and saying, so survival of the fittest, this is definitely performing better than the current version. Let's promote that live. And that becomes a continuous loop. And so we're able to use our deep semantic understanding of the platform plus the data we're collecting about users, which also could even be just having a semantic understanding of queries that people send, chat-based queries, support queries, for example. So there's a number of different ways that we feel that we can actually get information that helps us to improve applications continuously out in the wild. And so here's an example that just illustrates, pulls all of that together. The theme of our talk being life cycle development. So Gareth has demonstrated the concept of initially building an application from a prompt. At that point, we like the idea of going live first. If you really want to, actually launch it live. A lot of people get worried at that point and they'll say, well, yeah, but there's no way I want that initial application to go live. But one of the things you could be doing as your first version of an application is generating a waiting list or wait list page, and just push that live so that your idea is at least out there and it's already collecting emails, contact details from people that may be interested in that, while you, behind the scenes, are iterating the product conversationally and actually choosing when to push and publish the next version. And so we end up with something launched that we like, and then something that we're sort of code naming our AI co-founder is doing the work that I just described then from then on, which is let's actually start improving this product and keep it fresh and keep it meaningful and keep it effective while it's live.
So yeah, thank you very much. We would love for you to kind of join our journey. As Jason was mentioning, we are actively looking for information and research really so that we can improve our platform and make it something of real value to everybody to be able to bring their ideas to life in the form of digital applications. We would love to show you what we've got so far. Please do come and visit our booth at B1. We do have, it would be great if we could have a short, 5-minute conversation with you and capture some information. If you're happy to do so, then we'll enter you in to a prize draw with a chance of winning $1,000 as well. So please do come and visit us. And with that, I'll open the floor up to any questions that you may have.
Is this working? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So I've tried the sort of prompt style before, but I found it a little bit difficult. But I think that was because I didn't know what to name everything of what I wanted. And I didn't know if there was a way of having like a basic dictionary or something to help people who, you know, are completely new to this, because no code's obviously to give everyone accessibility to the technology. So if there was like a basic way of like, this is what you'd call this area here or this, because I went back to a template and then built from there because I found it too difficult to describe what I wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's something that really we can start to build into the onboarding process of the actual platform. Sorry. Where we can start to take you through how you would actually generate your application and start to give you some examples that would give you some of that terminology, you know, and actually walk you through an initial simple application, like get you building something immediately, you know, a bit more sophisticated than a hello world, but that kind of thing where you start to pick up what the process is, what the kind of terminology you should use. And we're also thinking, you know, that it might not all be around prompts. There might be some things that prompts are just not particularly well suited for. It might be something very, very simple that you need to do that would take multiple sentences or a very long sentence, whereas a drag and drop type of thing might be the answer. So we're thinking along those lines of having more kind of a hybrid approach to this, where it makes sense.
Please do come to our booth and just share that with us, because that naming is certainly an interesting point. We have thought about that, and it would be great to capture your thoughts. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. Anybody else?
Well, if you do think of something and want to come and visit us, have a chat, share thoughts, tell us what you think won't work about what we're doing, tell us what you think might be interesting, what we should be doing. It'd be really great to hear from you. We're not selling anything at the moment. We're here really to gather information and some research. So anything that you can do to help us, we'd be delighted to stick you in our prize draw and hopefully win you some money as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've had any experiences with any of this kind of approach as well, that would be great to hear. And also just come and tell us like what you want to build. Like, that's really helpful. We're all about, you know, trying to push the no-code movement forward. You know, we're making some kind of bets on types of applications at this stage, but, you know, the more we hear from people what people actually want to build and where their problems are, where the pain points are, the better we can, you know, make our platform be the solution for that. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you.